As we continue our journey through God's big story, we're hanging out here in the Gospels, learning about Jesus, the promised one sent by God to show the way to a broken and lost world. When Jesus began teaching, large crowds gathered everywhere he went. One day he climbed up on a mountainside to teach his disciples. People surrounded him, listening with fascination to the incredible things he said. Things like, "Put away riches for yourselves in heaven. Your heart will be where your riches are." But Jesus knew the only way his teaching would make a difference in people's lives was if they put it into practice. So he told a story. Some people call it a parable to help make it all stick. If he wrote the story for us today, it might sound something like this. Once there were two men who bought beachfront property side by side and planned to build homes for themselves. We'll call them Rocky and Sandy. Rocky met with the builder first. The builder told him he could build down on the beach, but he warned Rocky it was kind of soft. So Rocky opted for the hillside with solid rock and a great view. The builder agreed it was a great spot, so he got to work on Rocky's house. Rocky's home was built of sturdy stones with its foundation dug right down into the rock. Rocky was impressed with the excellent work, especially the extra support beams in the ceiling. And now, Sandy also met with the builder to decide where to put his new home. Sandy told the builder he'd like to build right at the edge of the water. The builder suggested Sandy move back a little bit from the beach. Despite the builder's insistence that Sandy have solid ground for his foundation, Sandy knew what he wanted, and it was the sand between his toes and the salty ocean at his doorstep. He demanded that the builder construct his house right at the water's edge. For all the ways that Rocky's house appeared strong and sturdy, Sandy's home looked a little different. Sandy refused to have his home constructed of heavy wood. Instead, he wanted it made of cardboard so he could cut out a window whenever he wanted. Forget supporting the roof, he also wanted entire walls of windows to let in sunlight. Sandy's home on the sand and Rocky's home on the rock were soon complete, and both men moved into their new homes. Sandy soaked up the smell of the salty breeze. But from his home on the hillside, Rocky surveyed the sky. Dark clouds gathered on the horizon. Yep, a big storm was brewing. And while Rocky put up his storm windows, Sandy sunbathed on his front porch. But suddenly, Sandy's sun disappeared. Moments later, fat drops of rain began to plunk against both houses. You guys might want to move back, or you might get wet. Rocky sat down with a mug of hot cocoa to wait out the storm. Though the wind howled and the sheets of rain whipped at the stones, his house stood firm on its rock foundation. But down on the beach, the waves roared right up to Sandy's house. Water poured down the hillside in streams and rivers washing right under the house on the beach. The whole house started shaking, windows shattered, and the wind ripped a huge hole in the roof. And soon the sand washed right out from under the house. The cardboard got soggy and started to sag. Sandy escaped from the home with only moments to spare, before it crashed down into the heap of soggy rubble. As the storms blew past, Sandy was left wet and shivering on the beach, staring at the wreck that had been his house. But up on the hillside, Rocky was warm inside his sturdy home. Jesus explained it in this way to the crowds who had listened to his teaching. So then, anyone who hears my words and puts them into practice is like a wise man. But he builds his house on the rock. The rain comes down, the water rises. The winds blow and beat against the house. But it does not fall. It is built on the rock. But everyone who hears my words and does not put them into practice is like a foolish man. He builds his house on the sand. The rain comes, the water rises. The winds blow and beat against that house, and it falls with a loud crash. Jesus' meaning was clear. It's not enough to simply know what God says. It's doing what God says that makes us strong. It's true. I know that knowing and doing what God says makes me strong. It's not enough to know what God says, you guys. You have to do it. And remember, God has given us what we need to make the wise choice. And that includes not just the knowledge, but also the power, strength, and ability to follow through. And here's the thing. Think back to when the rain first started to fall on the houses. The first couple of squirts didn't take down the house built on the sand, did they? Making one bad choice may not bring on extreme consequences, but over time, if you continue to make bad choices, all that pressure can knock you down. But we don't have to build houses of sand. Nope. Thanks to the knowledge and power that God has given us, we can make the wise choice and be strong when the rains and winds come. Let's thank God for that and ask for His help to make the wise choice.